I need to show you something that just appeared in federal data. And when you see these numbers, you'll understand why 22% of Americans believe they will never escape their debt. On January 15th, 2026, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York released its quarterly household debt report. Buried in the data tables is a number that represents the largest financial trap in American consumer history. Total U.S. credit card debt, $1.21 trillion, $1,210 billion. But that's not the terrifying part. The terrifying part is the interest rate, 22.30% on average. Let me make this concrete. If you're carrying the average credit card balance of $6,380 and making minimum payments at 22.3% interest, here's your reality. Time to pay off. 19 years, 8 months. Total interest paid, $10,120. Total amount paid, $17,300 for a $6,280 balance. You'll pay 2.7 times what you originally borrowed, nearly $3 for every $1 of actual spending. And here's the part that should make your blood run cold. This is not affecting a fringe group of irresponsible spenders. 173 million Americans are carrying credit card debt month to month. That's 61% of all cardholders. In a recent Bankrate survey released just days ago, 22% of Americans in debt said they believe they will never pay it off. Not that it will be difficult, not that it will take a long time. They believe it's mathematically impossible. They're trapped, permanently. Disclaimer. Before we continue, this analysis examines Federal Reserve, consumer debt data, credit card industry reports, and historical debt patterns. Economic outcomes depend on employment trends, interest rate policy, and individual circumstances that are inherently unpredictable. This is educational content, not financial advice. Consult qualified professionals for personal financial decisions. Now let me show you exactly how 173 million Americans got trapped in a system designed to keep them in debt forever, and what happens when they can't escape. The current crisis. Here's the reality that credit card companies don't want you to understand. The average credit card APR is 22.30%, near the highest level ever recorded. But that's just the average. According to LendingTree's January 2026 analysis, median APRs hit 25.3% for many cardholders, 25.3%. To put that in perspective, in 1991, the average credit card APR was 18.8%. In 2010, it was 14.3%. We're paying 60% more in interest than we did 15 years ago. While banks tell us the economy is strong and recovering, let me show you the mathematics that trap people. The minimum payment scam. Credit card companies typically set minimum payments at 2% of your balance or $25, whichever is higher. Sounds manageable, right? Here's what that actually means. Scenario: $10,000 balance at 22% APR, $200 minimum payment, 2%. Month 1, you pay $200. $183 goes to interest. Only $17 reduces your actual debt. Month 2, you pay $200. $182 goes to interest. Only $18 reduces debt. Month 3, you pay $200. $181 goes to interest. Only $19 reduces debt. For the first year, you pay $2,400 total. Your balance drops to only $97.80. You paid $2,400 and reduced your debt by $220. 91% of your payment went to interest. At this rate, it takes 23 years and 4 months to pay off the $10,000. You'll pay $18,140 in total interest. For a $10,000 debt, you pay $28,140 total. You pay nearly 3 times what you borrowed. Now multiply this across 173 million Americans carrying balances. According to the New York Fed data released January 2026, total credit card debt, $221 trillion, bounces up 60% since pandemic low of $770 billion in Q1 2021. Average balance per cardholder, $6,300. Median APR, 25.3%. Cardholders carrying debt, 12 plus months, 61%, up from 53% in 2024. But here's where it gets truly dystopian. 33% of cardholders cite day-to-day expenses as the reason for their debt, not luxury purchases or vacations. Groceries, utilities, gas, medical bills, rent. They're not using credit cards to live beyond their means. They're using credit cards to survive. And the interest trap ensures they never escape. According to data from getoutofdebt.org analyzing Bankrate's 2026 survey, 47% of cardholders carry a balance. Month to month, 36% have maxed out a card or come close in the past year. 60% are concerned about their ability to make minimum payments. 22% believe they will never escape their debt. This isn't a financial crisis. This is debt slavery with 25% interest rates instead of chains. Remember that 22% number I mentioned at the beginning? The Americans who believe they'll never escape debt? That's not pessimism, that's mathematics. When your interest rate is 25% and inflation is eating your wages and rent keeps climbing, the math doesn't work. You can't out-earn the interest. Let me show you exactly how we got here, because this didn't happen by accident. The three causes. Cause 1. Real wages collapsed, while costs exploded. Here's the squeeze that created this crisis. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics data, real wages, wages adjusted for inflation, have fallen 2.3% since January 2020. Your paycheck might say a bigger number, but it buys less. Meanwhile, the cost of essentials has exploded. Groceries, up 23% since 2020. Gasoline, up 41% since 2020. Rent, up 28% since 2020. Auto insurance, up 37% since 2020. Electricity, up 19% since 2020. Healthcare, up 21% since 2020. Your income went down 2.3% in real terms. Your expenses went up 20 to 40%. The gap was filled with credit cards. This is why 33% of cardholders say they use credit for day-to-day expenses. It's not poor budgeting. It's mathematical survival when wages don't cover costs. Cause 2. The pandemic hangover. During 2020-2021, the government flooded the economy with stimulus of $200, $600, and $400 direct payments, expanded unemployment benefits, child tax credits, student loan forbearance, eviction moratoriums. For a brief window, Americans actually paid down debt. Credit card balances fell from $927 billion in Q1 2020 to a low of $770 billion in Q1 2021. People used stimulus money to get out of debt, but then everything ended. Stimulus checks stopped, last payment March 2021. Expanded unemployment ended September 2021. Child tax credits expired December 2021. Student loan forbearance ended October 2023. Eviction moratoriums lifted. The safety nets disappeared, but inflation stayed. According to a San Francisco Federal Reserve study cited by Money Metals in January 2026, by June 2024, the median household had exhausted all excess pandemic savings. They were back to living paycheck to paycheck, except now everything cost 25% more. Credit cards became the bridge between income and expenses, and that bridge became a trap. Cause 3. The interest rate shock. This is where the trap snapped shut. In March 2022, the Federal Reserve began the most aggressive interest rate hiking cycle in 40 years. The Fed funds rate went from 0.25% to 5.50% in just 16 months. Credit card rates are variable. They're tied directly to the Fed's rate. Watch what happened. 2021 average credit card APR, 16.3%. 2024 average APR, 20.7%. January 2026 average APR, 22.30%. Median APR, many cardholders, 25.3%. If you were carrying a $10,000 balance in 2021, your annual interest cost was $1,230. By January 2026, that same $10,000 balance costs you $2,230 in annual interest, an extra $600 per year just in higher interest rates. For families already struggling with 23% grocery inflation and 28% rent increases, an extra $600 in interest costs was catastrophic. And here's the cruelest irony. President Trump proposed a 10% interest rate cap on credit cards in January 2026, acknowledging that Americans are being ripped off. Even the political establishment, which normally protects banks, admits the interest rates are predatory. But until that cap is implemented, if it ever is, 173 million Americans remain trapped at 22 to 25% rates. The perfect storm. Wages down 2.3% plus, expenses up 40% plus, stimulus ended plus, interest rates doubled Howard Trozen's $1.21 trillion debt trap. This wasn't random. This wasn't irresponsibility. This was a mathematical squeeze that forced working Americans into debt, and then interest rates that ensure they stay there. So we've established that 173 million Americans are trapped, paying 22 to 25% interest on debt they took on just to pay for groceries and rent. Now, let me show you what happens when people can't pay, and why this could trigger the next recession. The delinquency wave. Here's the data that should terrify credit card executives. According to the Federal Reserve's January 2026 household debt report, credit card delinquency rates, 90 plus days past due, hit 3.03%. That might sound small, just 3%, but it represents $36.6 billion in seriously delinquent debt, and it's rising fast. The delinquency rate was 2.1% in Q4 2021. It's up 44% in just 4 years. But that's just what's already failed. The leading indicator is far worse. According to TransUnion data cited in the Money Metals January 15, 2026 report, 28% of credit card holders report struggling to make minimum payments. That's 48 million Americans, one unexpected expense away from default. What's an unexpected expense? Car repair, $200 average. Medical emergency, $2,400 average ER visit. Job loss, average 5.5 months to find new employment. Home repair, $3,800 average. Any of these pushes a stressed borrower into delinquency. The demographic breakdown, the pain isn't evenly distributed. For borrowers under 39 years old, Gen Z and younger millennials, serious delinquency rates have doubled compared to older generations. Why? Because they're early in careers, lower wages, facing highest rent costs in history, carrying student loans on top of credit card debt, entering workforce during highest cost of living period in 40 years. According to LendingTree's analysis, 73% of credit card debt is now tied to essentials, not discretionary spending. People aren't defaulting because they bought too many gadgets. They're defaulting because they can't afford to eat and pay rent on their wages. What happens? When defaults spike. We've seen this pattern before. Let me show you the historical precedent. In 2008-2009, credit card delinquency rates spiked to 6.77%, the highest on record. Credit card charge-offs, debt written off as uncollectible, hit $89 billion in 2009. What happened next? Banks stopped lending. Credit limits were slashed across the board. $2.5 trillion in available credit was pulled from the market between 2008 and 2010. Consumers couldn't borrow. Consumer spending collapsed. The recession deepened. Here's the terrifying comparison. 2009 credit card debt, $865 billion 2026 credit card debt. $1.21 trillion, 40% higher. 2009 average, APR, 13.4%. 2026 average, APR, 22.30%, 66% higher. We have more absolute debt at far higher interest rates than the 2008 crisis. If delinquency rates climb from current 3.03% to 2008 levels of 6.77%, we're looking at $82 billion in charge-offs. And that triggers the credit contraction, spending collapse, recession feedback loop. We've covered the trap, the causes, and the delinquency wave. Now, let me tell you exactly who gets destroyed in this crisis and who actually profits from your suffering, because this is where the mathematics turn into human tragedy. Who gets hurt? Who profits? Who gets destroyed? 1. The 173 million cardholders. If you're carrying a balance at 22 to 25% interest, you're paying $2,000, $5,000 per year in interest alone on average balances. You're trapped in minimum payment cycles that last 15, 25 years. You're one emergency away from default and credit score destruction. You're sacrificing retirement savings, home ownership, and financial security. According to Yahoo Finance's January 2026 analysis of credit card data, the median American with credit card debt will pay $25,000 in interest over their lifetime. That's $25,000 that doesn't go to down payment on a home, retirement, savings, children's education, emergency fund, anything productive. It's pure transfer from you to banks. 2. Future economic growth. Consumer spending is 68% of U.S. GDP. When consumers are trapped paying 22% interest instead of spending on goods and services, the entire economy suffers. According to KPMG's January 2026 economic analysis, rising consumer debt stress is creating what they call a Vasmawis, a vibe session. Consumer sentiment at recession levels despite mixed economic fundamentals. People feel broke even when unemployment is low because they are broke after making minimum payments. 3. The next generation, Gen Z, is entering the workforce with highest cost of living in history. Lowest wage to rent ratio since the 1960s, credit card debt before age 25. They're financially crippled before their careers even begin. Who profits? 1. Credit card companies. At $1.21 trillion in balances and 22.30% average APR, credit card companies are earning approximately $270 billion per year in interest income. That's pure profit on money they created by extending credit. Add another $12 billion in fees, late fees, over-limit fees, annual fees, cash advance fees. Total credit card industry revenue, $282 billion per year. 2. Banks. The largest credit card issuers, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citigroup, Capital, One American Express. These institutions earn a 20 to 25% returns on credit card lending, far higher than any other lending product, while paying you 0.5% on your savings account. The wealth transfer. This is the hidden mechanism. $270 billion per year flows from working Americans to financial institutions through interest payments. That's $270 billion that doesn't get spent on homes, cars, education, or productive investments. It's extracted from the economy and concentrated in bank profits. This isn't capitalism. This is rent-seeking, extracting wealth without creating value. And it's accelerating. 4 scenarios. Let me walk you through how this could unfold. Scenario 1, soft landing with rate relief, moderate probability. Fed cuts rates in 2026-2027. Credit card APRs fall from 22% to 16 to 18%. Trump's proposed 10% interest rate cap passes Congress. Unlikely but possible. Wage growth outpaces inflation for 2 to 3 years. Debt-to-income ratios stabilize. Delinquencies peak at 4 or 5% and then decline. Some borrowers escape through increased earnings or balance transfers to lower rate products. Probability, 25-30% impact on you. If you can hold on through 2026-2027, relief may come through lower rates and better wage growth. Historical parallel. 2015-2019 period of stable consumer credit and rising wages. Scenario 2, recession-driven spike, moderate high probability. Economy enters recession in late 2026 or 2027. Unemployment rises to 6-7%. Delinquencies spike to 6 to 8%. Banks panic and pull $500 billion to $1 trillion in available credit from the market. Credit limits slashed, new applications denied. Existing cardholders see limits reduced. Consumer spending collapses. Recession deepens. Government intervention possibly required. Bailouts, rate caps, debt forgiveness programs. Probability, 40-45% impact on you. If you lose job or income, you default. Credit score destroyed for 7 years. No access to credit during recovery. Historical parallel, 2008-2009 credit card crisis. Delinquencies hit 6.77%. 89's buyers and charge-offs, 2.5T in credit withdrawn. Scenario 3, stagflation trap, low moderate probability. Inflation stays elevated at 4 and 5% while growth slows. Real wages continue declining. Credit card debt grows to 1.5 trillion plus by 2028. Interest rates stay high. Fed can't cut due to inflation. APRs remain at 20-25%. Permanent underclass emerges. 100 plus million Americans in permanent debt servitude, paying 25% of income to interest. Economic mobility collapses. Middle class shrinks. Probability, 20-25% impact on you. Debt becomes permanent fixture. You'll be paying minimum payments for life, never escaping. Historical parallel, elements of 1970s stagflation combined with modern credit trap. Scenario 4, debt jubilee, very low probability. Political pressure forces government action. Credit card debt forgiveness program, partial or full, implemented. Similar to student loan forgiveness attempts, but for credit cards. Banks compensated through government program or tax breaks. Moral hazard debate erupts. Legal challenges certain. Probability, 5 to 10% impact on you. If enacted, life-changing relief, but creates precedent for future bailouts and moral hazard concerns. Historical parallel. No modern U.S. precedent. Biblical jubilees, but not applicable here. The most likely path. Combination of Scenario 2 and elements of Scenario 3. Recession in 2026-2027 causes spike in defaults. Some borrowers get crushed. Government provides limited relief, rate caps, modest forgiveness programs. But structural problem remains. Wages insufficient to cover living costs. Credit cards fill the gap. Interest rates trap people permanently. A permanent credit-dependent underclass emerges. Let me bring this home. 173 million Americans are carrying credit card debt. $121 trillion total at an average 22.30% APR. 22% believe they will never escape their debt. Not because they're pessimistic, but because the mathematics don't work. When you're paying 25% interest while wages fall 2.3% in real terms and groceries cost 23% more, you can't out-earn the trap. You're on a treadmill that speeds up faster than you can run. And here's the part that should enrage you. This isn't a financial crisis caused by irresponsibility. 73% of credit card debt is tied to essentials. Groceries, utilities, medical bills, rent. People are using 25% interest credit to survive, not to buy luxuries. The banks know this. The credit card companies know this. They're extracting $270 billion per year from working Americans who have no choice but to borrow to eat. What you should do, if you're in credit card debt, 1. Stop using the cards immediately. Every swipe adds to a balance you're paying 2 to 3x on. 2. Attack the debt aggressively, pay more than minimums. Use debt avalanche method, highest rate first. Even an extra $50 a month cuts years off payoff time. 3, look for balance transfer offers. 0% APR for 12 or 18 months can provide breathing room. But read terms carefully. 4, negotiate with card companies. Call and ask for rate reduction. They'd rather keep you at 18% than have you default at 25%. 5, seek nonprofit credit counseling organizations like NFCC provide free debt management plans. Not debt settlement scams, actual help. If you're not in debt, 1, build emergency fund before investing. 3 months expenses in cash prevents credit card trap when car breaks down. 2, never carry a balance. Use credit cards for rewards, tosh convenience, but pay full statement balance monthly. 3, understand you're one emergency away. 48 million Americans struggling with minimums weren't planning to be there. Medical bill, job loss, car repair, it happens fast. The bigger picture, this is stage 4. The system is designed to extract wealth from workers and concentrate it in financial institutions. $270 billion per year flows from your interest payments to bank profits. While you're told to budget better, the actual problem is wages haven't kept pace with living costs in 40 years. Credit cards are the patch, interest rates are the trap. Subscribe to Stage 4 because we track the mathematics of how the system extracts your wealth and what you can do to avoid the traps. The 173 million Americans in credit card debt aren't irresponsible. They're the victims of a 40-year wage stagnation crisis, papered over with 25% interest credit. Thanks for watching.